I'm about to make a set of buttons all on one collection of mandrels using Effetre's ivory and a silver laden green from Rocio. Simply load the mandrels evenly spaced into the multi-mandrel holder. Straighten up the ends so that they are nice and even. Slide the keeper to lock them in position. Then I dip them. And I do this so that I don't crack off any mandrel release when I'm putting them in. A little bit of experience taught me that. And I find it also very easy to flame dry them just as I'm working. So don't want to do this too fast, just nice and gentle. Even warm them up and let them just steam themselves dry as you maybe prepare your glass, nip the ends, do whatever you need to until they're ready. You don't want to rush them. Sometimes the mandrel release gets weak or pops off. And I'm going to try and do 5 buttons all in a row so that I can make them all the same size and everything, and it's just a little more efficient, and I know how long this set of buttons took me, so it's easier for pricing and eventual marketing of the buttons themselves. Got to think of it as a business after all. Many times I find myself with a stopwatch or a counter of time of some sort near me on my desk, so I actually keep track of how long things are taking. Sometimes it's a reminder, hey, get to work. You're not working fast enough. Or it's also an indication of, hey, you've been spending too much time on that and you need to get onto something new. You're never going to be able to sell that for the time it's taking you to fix it. So give up. So right now I'm just laying down that initial banded core to get some glass on the mandrels and also to space out the beads so I can concentrate on them each individually later without transferring too much heat to the adjacent bead. And but close enough so that I can fit them all onto this short mandrel. You don't want to get too much closer to the multi-mandrel holder head than what you see on mine, just for heat. You don't want it to get too hot there. It's not going to hurt it, it's hot and radiates heat towards your fingers. Well, it looks like I've run out of room, so I'm going to do 4 instead of 5. But I'm sure you have a good enough imagination that you can imagine there's one more spinning on the end. Alright, going back to the front, add a little bit more glass. You want to make sure you try and add the same amount of glass to it each time so that you have buttons at the end that have the same volume of glass in each one at each point, because then they look uniform. They look like they go together better. And sometimes it's hard to tell that when you're working because the glass is expanding and contracting, and the one you're working on that you make the same size as the one next to it when it cools, it's going to look a little small. So knowing that you add the same amount of glass to each one it's an important way to keep things evenly sized. This one I see is a little bit shy, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to add a little bit more glass, just a touch. And to do that, I get the gather really hot, so it's a small gather that's very hot, so that I can lay it down. And then I've got too much on there, so I'm going to grab a hold of a little bit of that hot glass with a cold section of my cane, and it will transfer to the cane and remove a little bit of that extra glass. Glass will always transfer from the hotter to the cooler. So that's why I left this cold and got the glass I wanted to remove extra hot. I'm going to crank up the heat a little bit, speed this up slightly. Now I've got them all warm, nice and even, so that I can then concentrate on one individual, because I need to take the glass, push it down into the center to fill the core of my buttons. This is kind of the thing that takes the longest, because once I have the actual button core finished, the rest of it goes quite quickly. And when you do this, in the very center there might be a slight bulge or a little pooch out. That's fine. It's actually desirable, because as you build things up, that will tend to draw glass into the center, and it will actually finish up making a prettier center to your button, and the center being what's in between the holes. It's something you can't overlook, because once you start to build up outside the mandrels, you're going to be working on the outside edge of the button, and it's not going to be very easy to transfer the heat in past the cage of mandrels that's spinning there. It's just, they are your blockers. They take the heat away from the glass efficiently enough that it's really hard to transfer the heat to the center later on. So this part is really kind of important to get right. It's like when you're making beads normally, you need to get that core nicely shaped, well made, because the rest of your bead depends on that. It's your foundation. And a good foundation makes the rest of the building of your bead, button, whatever you're creating, better, quicker, easier. And when you're selling to a collector, a connoisseur, a jewelry artist, anyone who really knows about buttons or beads, they look for the fact that the holes aren't sharp, that they're not going to cut their stringing material, that they're going to not need to be cold worked or ground. That shows high quality craftsmanship. And when you're working, you're taking your time to create something of beauty, you want it to be a well-made thing of beauty. And to those who don't know about the quality construction of a bead or a button, they see it subconsciously and will react to a bead that's not quite right, to not know why. Until they become a connoisseur.